Hello there. Suppose I want to make a fraction in my equation which has, for example, 1 in the numerator and a plus b in the denominator. If I just use keyboard shortcuts, so 1/a plus and type a plus b here, I'm going to have a problem because as soon as I type plus, the autocorrect kicks in. So what's a better way to do that? Well, if instead I type 1/ and then I use parentheses, a plus b, close parentheses. Now when I press space to trigger the autocorrect, then the parentheses vanish because they weren't being used as characters, they were being used to group the a plus b to say hang on to this and don't process it until you've done your previous autocorrect. And that occurs in a number of places and it can be useful when constructing fractions. Suppose my fraction was something like 1 plus z, and now I want an expression in the numerator and the denominator, so I'm going to group them both over 1 minus z, and then I realised actually I don't want that to be z, I want that to be 1 over z. Well, I could make that a fraction within a fraction, but that rapidly gets rather hard to read, so it would be better to have that, if we look at the fraction menu here, a linear fraction like this. Word of advice: don't use skewed fractions in serious scientific work, unless you're trying to simulate an old-fashioned cash register with shillings and pence. They really cause more trouble than they're worth. But linear fractions are useful. How can we do them well, there's various ways we can do that. If I highlight the fraction and just right click on it, I've got change to linear fraction, and that makes a more sensible thing. Alternatively, I could do 1 \l div for linear division, and then when pressing space after the \l div turns it into this slash sign, but you see they're more spaced than they are in the numerator. But if I now press space after the following character, now it groups them correctly. And those linear fractions are particularly useful if you want to insert equations in the middle of a line of text, because then you won't have something ridiculously tall. If I just copied that and pasted it in there with a space either side, then it's going to turn into an inline equation. But if I now pull down on this menu on the right, I beg your pardon, I think there was a space attached to it. That's it. If I have it like that actually within the equation, if I just delete the spaces either side and put them back in, then we've either got very small characters and we've got stretched lines. It would be better to rewrite that in some way. And Word will do a certain amount of that. So if I take this integral for here, for example, and copy that into the middle of a line, and again delete the spaces either side of it, you can see that it's used a shorter integral sign than it does with the displayed equation, and it knows how to do that. And if I want to convert that back to an inline equation, one way to do that is to pull down on this menu and say change to display, and I can change back to linear. I didn't mean to do that. That's changing it to, I want to change to inline. Professional and linear. Linear is a sort of hidden code inside it. We won't be making very much use of that. But if I change to inline, there it is with the shorter integral sign, so as not to stretch the lines too much. And there's a certain art to deciding whether to use linear fractions or raising something to the power -1 or whatever in order to keep your lines reasonably neat and not have a massively tall equation in the middle of some text.